most people don't get married to get divorced. I've officiated probably 40 plus weddings now in my pastoral career, and not one of them have I felt that they've walked down the aisle thinking, yeah, the second we have a fight, the second this goes bad, the second I don't really like them, I'm out. I'm just going to file for divorce. If I ever picked up on that kind of thing, I wouldn't do the wedding because marriage is meant to last. Every single wedding I've done, the bride and the groom have taken vows that say, till death do us part. And yet we know, looking around our society, that that isn't the case. That divorce do us part is far more common than death do us part. Actually, at about a 50% rate now for all marriages. And we know that in addition to that, approximately, give or take, 70% of the time, the woman is the one who files for divorce. And I want to think about that this morning for our devotional. So if you're married, why is that the case? And I'll be honest, sometimes men come into my office and they don't really seem to know why they're getting divorced. They'll come and they seek me out as their pastor. They're having crisis in their life. Their wife has just served them with papers or told them, hey, I want to get divorced. And they come to me and they say, Pastor Craig, I have no idea why this is happening, which of course I always push back on. No idea. You thought you had the perfect marriage yesterday and then today. And of course, every single time, well, no, they say. I didn't think I had the perfect marriage, but I didn't think she was done. I didn't think she was ready for divorce. But there were signs along the way that they weren't paying attention to. Kind of reminds me of this analogy. Oftentimes when the check engine light comes on in the car, the wife, and this is stereotypical, but the wife will be like, hey, we need to take it into the mechanic shop, which most husbands will say, no, it's fine. I'll take a look at it. Just, is it driving okay? Yeah, no, it's not making, but the check engine light's on. And the husband will maybe kind of kick the tires a little bit, open the hood, pretend they know what they're looking at. But they're worried about the bill. They're worried about something being wrong. And they just kind of want to see what will happen if they run it for a few days. And then sometimes the check engine light goes off. So they feel justified in saying, see, aren't you glad we didn't take it to the mechanic? But then over time, more and more, that check engine light keeps popping back on. And their wife more and more becomes exasperated. But the husband feels justified in saying, you said we needed to take it to the mechanic before, but the light eventually went away. Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, I wish the check engine light didn't come on, but we don't need to take it to the mechanic. Think of the bill. Think of what if he tells us the car is totaled or something very serious. So we don't need to take it to the mechanic. Let's just kind of wait and see. Meanwhile, the wife is becoming more and more frustrated. My husband doesn't care that the car is broken. My husband doesn't care that I want to take it to the mechanic. My husband doesn't care that it might strand me or the kids. And then what eventually happens, right? The car breaks down. Almost inevitably, the wife is the one driving it in that moment. And she's so frustrated because of the months and months and months of saying, we should have been taking this vehicle to the mechanic. And finally, the car breaks down. And so then the husband says, well, hey, don't get upset. Don't get frustrated. Well, cars break down. We'll take it to the mechanic. Fine, we'll do it. We'll get it into the mechanic. I've got a guy who can see it. And then they're shocked when the wife says, no, I'm done with this car. Like, we're getting a new car. And the husband's like, getting a new car? We just need to take it into the mechanic. And so the analogy goes. Oftentimes, the check engine light comes on in your marriage. And your wife tends to be the first person who sees it. They tend to be the first person who says, hey, the check engine light is coming on. We should get some help. Maybe it's speak to a pastor. Maybe it's going to a licensed counselor. Maybe it's getting out and spending some time together. Maybe it's spending more time in prayer together. Whatever it is, the check engine light is on. We need to get some help. And far too often, the husband's response to that is, I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have patience. Just give it a few weeks and the check engine light will probably go away. The husband is thinking, my wife has said this before, that our marriage is in trouble. But I know, she just needs to calm down. I'll pick up some flowers at Walmart or I'll do something. But our marriage really isn't in trouble. The car isn't going to break down, but eventually it does. And 70% of the time, the woman says, I'm done. The husband is always almost so shocked and tells me, I'd be willing to go to counseling now. And almost always I've asked, did she ask before? And typically what I get is something like this. Well, yeah, she did ask, but I didn't feel like we had time, or I didn't feel like we had money, or I really didn't want to go, or she picked this counselor I really didn't like, or we went a few times and I thought it was stupid and I didn't take it seriously. The warning signs were there. The check engine light was on. And far too often, the husband says, I had no idea. Didn't you, though? This devotional is not about shaming husbands. I am a husband. This devotional is about trying to help, especially Christian husbands, be aware of what might be happening in their marriage and how they can ward off that car breaking down, getting served with divorce papers. Most people did not get married to set out to get divorced. Most people don't want to get divorced. They feel like it's the only option to walk away from a broken down car. And even when one person says, let's get it in the mechanic, the other person is saying, I don't think this thing can be fixed, or I'm so exasperated with how many times this is broken down, I don't even want it to be fixed. So husbands, what are some practical steps you can take when that check engine light, so to speak, comes on in your marriage? How can you respond in a way that might keep you from sitting on my couch saying, I don't know what happened, she's filing for divorce? The first, and it's the most practical, listen to your spouse. This is for a husband or a wife. When your spouse is speaking, listen to them. And I'm not talking about just catching up on the normal day-to-day stuff. Of course, it's important to listen, but when your spouse communicates something seriously, the check engine light of our marriage is on, you need to listen. Not just hear them, listen to what they're saying. If they're communicating concern, then even if you don't necessarily disagree, even if you don't even understand, if your partner is concerned, if your spouse is concerned, you should be concerned too. Listening is the first step. Oftentimes they are speaking, you're just not listening. Number 2, take initiative. I don't care if it's with the car or with your marriage or with a broken light bulb or with a broken garbage disposal or because this needs done or that needs done or the kids need bath. Take initiative. A husband that takes initiative will bless his wife. So if your wife says, hey, we've been struggling and our check engine light is on and it is time that we get into a mechanic. I'd like to go talk to our pastor. I'd like to go talk to a counselor. I'd like to go do this, this, and this. You know how much it would bless her if the next day you said, hey, I reached out to our pastor. We can get in this week and talk to them. Hey, I reached out to our pastor and found some licensed counselors that we can go see. Hey, I already made an appointment, or I found out that there's availability at this counselor, and this counselor. These are the 3 that they have. They've all done marriage. Would you prefer to see this person, and this person? I want to go and make sure that we get to a healthy place. Taking initiative will show your spouse that even if you don't understand why the check engine light's on, that you agree with them, that they're not crazy, that the light is on, and that you want to make sure that the car runs smoothly, that the marriage runs well. By taking initiative, you can show them that this is indeed something that you care about. And even if you don't understand it, even if you don't agree with it, you love them so much that you're willing to walk down this road with them. You love them so much that you're willing to take initiative. And lastly, men, fight fear. Do you know the number one reason men don't go to the doctor? Like it's stereotypical that men don't typically go to the doctor. Do you know the number one reason? They're afraid to get a crippling diagnosis. So men know that they have something wrong. Maybe they feel like their heart isn't responding right. They feel like their body isn't responding right. They know their back is thrown out or something. They know that something's wrong, but oftentimes will put it off for months or for forever because they're afraid of what the doctor will say. I actually think this the same reason why a lot of men avoid going to counseling with their spouse or avoid getting marriage help with their spouse, with their wife, because they're afraid. They're afraid of what the counselor will say. They're afraid of how they might have to change. They're afraid of how they'll have to talk about that thing that they said at that time. They're afraid that they're going to have to really dig in and dig deep. And men, I'm here to tell you, fear is a terrible motivator. Fear will always leave you in a ditch. And you do not need to be afraid. The scriptures tell us that perfect love, that love that comes from God, it casts out fear. So if you're secure in who you are in Jesus, you can walk towards the scary thing, because no matter what you walk through, no matter what you have to confess, no matter how you have to walk it out, Christ will not leave you. He will not forsake you. His love is with you. Fight fear. Don't let fear be the reason that you don't go to the mechanic, that you don't go to the doctor, that you don't work on what you need to work on, because fear is a liar, and eventually it'll say, just ignore it, just ignore it, just ignore it, and eventually it will come home anyways. Fight fear. Just a few words to maybe some of the wives that are watching this, and you're thinking, man, this is my husband. I can't get him to understand. One, maybe just show him this video. Just say, hey, this pastor put into words what I've been trying to say. The check engine light is on. I love you, but I can't keep driving this car like this. I can't keep living in this marriage like this. We need help. Speak crystal clear to them. Not, hey, do you want to get counseling? Well, most men will hear that and say, no, I don't want to do that. Do you want to have a prostate exam? No, I don't really want to do that. Do you want to go to counseling? No, I don't really want to do that. Hey, we are going to counseling. If you take this marriage seriously, if you love me, if you'll fight for this marriage, we will go to counseling. How do you want that to happen? What if I made an appointment? What if you made an appointment? How can we make that happen? Speak crystal clear and let them know that this isn't a minor engine problem, even if you've said it is one in the past, that you're being very serious and that your marriage is in very serious shape, in need of serious help. And also, don't be afraid to go alone. I've sat with many women who wish their husband will be on the couch next to them, or who I know have gone to counseling and wish that their husband would have come with them. But for whatever reason, they won't. Don't be afraid to seek out health, even if your spouse won't join you. I can't say what road that'll lead you down, but I can say that it is never good to stay unhealthy for the sake of another person because they refuse to get healthy too. Seek out the help you need. Look, I know counseling isn't a silver bullet to fix all marriages. I know coming in and talking to a pastor isn't a silver bullet. I know that some marriages are really going through really, really hard things, difficult things, challenges that they are going to need a lot of help to get through. But what I do know is this: doing nothing almost always results in disaster. I don't care whether it's your car or your marriage. Doing nothing when the warning signs are there almost always results in disaster. So don't do that. I hope that this little analogy, this little devotional, these little tips and tricks helps you have a conversation in your marriage, and at least store something in the back of your brain that maybe gives you a language to say, hey, our check engine light is on. We need to go see the mechanic of our marriage, so to speak. And ultimately, I hope that you can find health in your marriage again. I don't think anyone walks down the aisle desiring to get divorced, and yet we see 1 in 2 marriages failing, and really at an alarming rate. My heart is that marriages would stay whole and healthy to the glory of God, but we've got to pay attention when those lights come on.